So Kumo and I have had a very busy week here. This stunning, frozen, dark brown metallic M760i turned up on our doorstep with 601 horsepower. I'm going to give him this while we're talking. There you go. And at the very same time, BMW called and said, please come to Chicago so you can drive a 4-cylinder 5 Series, one with some electrification. And we'd like to show you not the car, but how it is connected to the world. So while this was sitting on our garage, and he of course elected not to join me, I flew to Chicago to meet the man who runs Connected and a whole business inside of BMW, basically a tech company inside of a car company, Dieter May. He is the SVP of Connected Plus, and he showed me something rather interesting. And rather than me tell you, I'll show you. But as you watch this, I want you to be thinking what questions it opens in your mind of cars going forward. And he's going to have a snack while you're thinking about that. Could you not slobber on the bumper? Okay, so this is indeed a new one for me. Normally, I turn up at these events and they hand over a car, we drive a car, and you and I talk about the car. Today, they did indeed hand over a car, but they also handed over a phone and a watch. Now, I am not a huge fan of these things, so let's not play around with this. I'll just suffice to say that there is an app on here that they show. Oh, well, there's Minnie Mouse there right now, but let's get to the app. And there's the BMW app telling me that I've got 11 miles of range on this 530e. It's also giving me options to turn on the HVAC system, but notice it gives me an option of a route. And this is where we're going to turn over to this phone here and go to the BMW Connected Plus app. They were very specific about the Plus. And once again, I have all the same data here. Let's go back. 11 miles of range, 11 miles of range. So I get all the status stuff about the car that we're in right now. But this, you know, we've seen this before. So let's focus on destinations. So the folks at BMW programmed in a trip for me. So they want me to go to Montrose Beach, which is just over on Lakeshore Drive, just north of the city here. So we click on that. And this is the suggested trip that they've given me here. Actually, if I go to activity, there's also like, this is like my calendar. So with this, it's given me 2 routes for the day. So this is my plan for here in Chicago. So let's do the first one. And it's giving me some details of where I'm going, how much time it should take, and current traffic data. Even gives me a menu of find parking activity. But let's hit go. And here's the interesting thing. Look what happened. It just came up on my nav here. Now let's stop fooling around with this, put this over here, and we can focus on the infotainment system. Now this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. So let's go over here to menu, Connecteddrive. Now this is where it gets a bit futuristic in that this was set up as a meeting, so I can share this with the folks that are in the meeting. So they've set it up here. The people I'm having the meeting with is journalists too. It doesn't sound like a very exciting meeting. So it's sending a message, and guess what? They gave me another phone, and it's going to send a text message here. If I click this link on this phone here, well, its phone doesn't like me, does it? If I click this link here, now I've shared my live trip status with the person on the other end. So basically, think of this as the person I'm having the meeting with. Think about what just happened here. All that privacy stuff, the stuff we get concerned about, I know I am one of them, because I'm still freaked out that I have one of those Amazon Alexa Echo dot something or others, like the government's listening into me. Now I've shared my real-time data of from where I'm starting from to where I'm going. So you can no longer say, hey, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes, I'm in this place. Basically, it makes you very honest. That's the one thing I do like about this. Okay, so let's put this one away, the second phone, and just forget about the phones, and we will drive around Chicago, shall we? Gonna show these guys a fancy piece of New York driving here. Just get out there and go, man. Don't wait for a written invitation like the rest of these idiots. It's a big city, people, but you drive like Midwesterners. Look at this, we're crossing the Chicago River, people. What a wonderful place, man. Old school architecture, nice people, good food, interesting city. What a great place to be. Okay, so now we're going north on Michigan Avenue, and this is very much like 5th Avenue, 57th Street in the terms of the kind of stores that are here and how touristy it is. Like here's a Tiffany and a Nordstrom. Okay, now let's see if we can get away from this. Let's show these people a little fancy New York driving. Get around these slow pokes here, make our way up to Lakeshore Drive. Get a little bit of view of the lake. Okay, let's see what this 530e is made of. We've actually never driven this on the show together. And the first time we're doing it, we're playing around with apps. It's interesting. Well, it's only fitting considering it's like a plug-in electric vehicle. And beautiful Lake Michigan. If you are a runner, man, this is a great place to run. It is flat. You get great views of the water. The only problem is Chicago, there's only two types of weather here. There's winter and construction. And in construction, it is blisteringly hot. So very hard to run. Other than that, it's a great place to run. Okay, as we're making our way north on Lakeshore Drive here, I want to show you one more thing. Let's go back to the menu, to the Connecteddrive app. And think of this as like the main trip menu. This isn't the main menu of the UX. This is something that's been added by the Connected Plus people. And what they're doing is they're showing you your destination. They give you a cascading menu, so this gives you more options as you're in the trip. So get you information about parking, live trip data. I've already set that up. I can share an updated arrival time with new people. But this, I think, is more interesting over here. Yeah, you get some weather data, and that's already pulling it from the UX within the BMW infotainment system. But this here is also new in that what they're doing is they're giving you like a graph that shows you problems along the way. So I've got 4 miles left, and if there was, and this is unusual that in Chicago that there's no traffic, but look, there's no traffic because the line is a solid line. If there was a lot of traffic, you'd see like different shades of red. There'd be like a mature shade of orange, a full-on dark red for a complete standstill. They built this into the app, and I think this is probably one of the nicest features of this like one central place for information. Okay, so now we're getting to a park. Again, what a wonderful city. You can have a cool place overlooking the lake, and you can walk to your boat. Try that in LA. Oh my, millions. I gotta tell you, man, this is a nice rail. They did a nice job on the 5 Series. It's not a beautiful car. It's not a pretty car. It's handsome. But on the inside, it is a damn nice place to be. Wow. Almost nicer than the 7 in terms of the design. I don't think it's a size thing. I think it's just a design thing. They finally got their mojo going on this one. And judging from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other 530Es, any color you want as long as they're brown, goldish brown, I think we've arrived at our destination. And a nice German man to help us out. Wie geht's?
Please go around and have the loop, you'll come back to here.
Alles klar.
Dankeschön.
So you can see the bronze, sort of gold, tan 530e back there. Let's put the BMW and the tech aside for a minute because we need to go low tech, and I gotta show you something. You know what, rather than me tell you, let me just show you. The stunning Chicago skyline. Look at these guys, these fishermen down here. They've got it completely figured out. They're just chilling on a Thursday, fishing, taking in the view. And you can see down there, you can see Willis Tower. You can see the Navy Pier, all the way up Lakeshore Drive here. This is where we did our drive. This guy's on his boat on a Thursday. This is a great summer day. And there's a great running path all the way over there that I told you about. And then if we go over this way, can't really see it, but all the way over there is Michigan. So over the past 8 years, you guys have gotten to know me as a car guy. But for 15 years before that, I was in the technology world. I worked for companies like Apple, Prodigy Internet, if you remember that, Telmex, and even a small startup company that basically invented what you now know today as apps. So sitting there and talking to Dieter and trying these apps inside of a new environment was kind of deja vu. And here's what it reminds me of. Way back in the day when I was working for Prodigy, which was a company that provided you internet access starting in the dial-up days and then going all the way into high-speed internet, we invented basically DSL. There was a fight on our hands, and the fight was for people who created the content and the people who connected the networks. So your home computer to those content providers. Now they called us a dumb pipe, and well, I can't tell you what we called them. But at the end of the day, we were fighting for you, the customer, and eyeballs. This is now the same soap opera playing itself out yet again, but instead of it being your home computer, which switched to your tablet and your phone, now it's for control over the UX in your car. I feel that the usual suspects, like Google and Apple, are kind of winning the battle because they're taking over control over so many different brands of cars through Apple CarPlay and Google Android Auto. But here's BMW, and they're saying, guess what? We're not going to be the dumb pipe. We have God knows how many customers that are really loyal. Why should we just hand over complete control over those customers and their eyeballs to Apple and Google when we can at least try to control that? Now, it does bring up a significant amount of questions. Like, for example, is BMW in the business of selling you a car or selling you services? Or is BMW in the business of selling you a car that's been engineered to drive on the Autobahn and have 601 horsepower? Or once they've sold you those services, to mine that data either for use in other BMWs, which is for the greater good, or to sell that data to other companies. Now, Dieter was very upfront and said they have no business of selling the data, which is wonderful to hear, but it still brings up a lot of questions. And at the end of the day, my suggestion would be, this is going to be a tough fight, BMW, because you're going to be fighting against established players in the tech world that, frankly, as Apple, I used to fight against, and now Apple, through many different lives, has come to be one of those big players. BMW, not so much the dumb pipe here, because they do have a brand loyalty. The question is, could pairing up with a company like Microsoft and providing cloud-based services, is that something to sell services? Or, more importantly, is it to set the stage going forward where there's no longer one of these in a car, and you are going to be focusing on working on email, working on a Word document, or just catching up via text? Because now that I personally have spent a lot of time using Apple CarPlay, I have to say my drives are more productive and frankly more safe that I'm using the UX and the voice-based system. And even I would say, yeah, I would probably want to be able to do short emails, but my concern would be, what happens if you get carried away with a long email or something you're getting, like you're arguing with a family member via email? Would that be just as distracted as someone arguing when they're trying to text on their phone? These are some of the questions that come up. And I can't answer all of them, but the one piece of advice I do want to offer Dieter and his team in Chicago, who seem to be incredibly talented, because think about all the pieces that go into not only integrating this into a UX that works in a car that really can't fail, because these things are a 2.5-ton vehicle moving down the road very quickly, but also making that work in the cloud and with a completely different company that is not in the car business. That is not easy. My advice to you is, make sure you really understand your competition, because the folks at Google and Apple, I promise you, they want to be doing the same thing as you do. So with that, let me turn this around to you guys, and I want to ask you something very honestly here, and I'm looking for some information that I know Dieter will look for in the comments of this episode, and it's very simple. It's, do you want these kind of services in a car? Do you want to buy services from a car company? Do you want a BMW to not just be an OEM, but to be a software company? Because if you think about it, the precedent was set from IBM many years ago when it got completely out of the hardware business by selling that business to Lenovo and now all they are is a services company. Granted, I don't think BMW is going to get out of the OEM business. They're frankly too good at it. So let's be very clear about this question here. Would you A, buy data and/or content services from a car manufacturer? Yes or no, why or why not? And B, if you would, what services would they be? Something like Microsoft Exchange, or perhaps another type of productivity system, or maybe even entertainment, or perhaps something I'm not even bringing up here. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, we want to leave you with two things. Number one, please unsubscribe. Speaking of services, please unsubscribe and then resubscribe, click notifications. This is how much the services company we know as Google, in their business of YouTube, has completely screwed it up for all of us, YouTubers big and small, especially this guy here. And number two, a fun fact, and this is more of a hinweis of behind the scenes of the tech world. To make this kind of stuff work on, say, a computer that sits on your desk and go nowhere is really hard. To make it work on a device like this that travels around the world, that's near impossible. To make it work in a 2.5-ton car that is designed to go, in this case, 155 miles an hour, even if you're a tech company within said car manufacturer, that, I take my hat off to the folks that are attempting to go down this path. Until we see you next time, bis später.